America's not a racist country. And I know this because in his Republican response to President Joe Biden's national address, Senator Tim Scott told me so. Now, obviously, I'm not interested in uh, telling the senator what his experience of racism is or how he should interpret it. There are plenty of people online doing that right now. Uncle Tim is trending, I believe, on Twitter. No, what I want to comment about is, and what qualifies me to comment on this statement, is that the target of that comment was me, or at least people who look like me, probably a little anxiety about their job, sick and tired of being called racists. And so when Senator Scott comes on television and says America is not a racist country, they feel a warming in their heart. And think, I might just vote for that young man. But my problem with Senator Scott's statement is that it doesn't mean anything. And what is he saying? Is he saying America wasn't founded as a racist nation? Because the Three-Fifths Compromise is right there in the Constitution. Is he saying we don't have a racist history because of the Chinese Exclusion Act, the Jim Crow, the genocide of Native Americans? Definitely points to a racist history. I think when he's pressed, his default will be that the majority of Americans aren't racist. And that may very well be true. But how can I put this? If I take a gallon of water and good, clean, drinkable water, and I scoop up 4 red Solo cups of good red Tennessee mud from out of my backyard, plenty to be had, and I dump it in that water, do I have a gallon of clean drinking water and 4 cups of mud? No, I have a gallon of mud. If you don't get the analogy, the mud in this context, the particulates of clay and silt are tiki torch wielding Jews will not replace us, unite the right Confederate monument defenders. It's Derek Chauvin, the Oath Keepers. It's the Proud Boys, Dylan Roof, and QAnon. Just between you and me, that's a lot more than 4 cups of mud. And it's Jewish Space Laser Lady. Don't forget Jewish Space Laser Lady. I know, she was elected to Congress, so she's technically entitled to the honorific Congresswoman Jewish Space Laser Lady. But I think the reason he chose his words so carefully, said a thing that is kind of a meaningless feel-good slogan, is because that people who like Tucker Carlson and watch a little bit too much Fox News can hear in Tim Scott's statement a reification of the we're living in a post-racial society. We can't be racist because we elected a black president twice. I think it's just parsing words for political capital. But the other thing that bothers me about it is that it was a Republican response. He said this in response to a speech by Joe Biden. And there was an episode of Bill Maher where he was doing what he usually does, which is starting from a place of of cultural insight and then running over himself to make it into a hasty and lazy generalization. It was something about the history of the racist South. And Cornel West, who was a guest on the show, called him out on it a little bit. Called him out on the implication that all Southerners were racist by pointing out that the people that Southern racists were oppressing were also Southern, that the leaders of the civil rights movement were by and large Southern, as were many of their white allies. And what happened in that situation was Bill Maher said something, and immediately Cornel West responded to it. The Republican response to Joe Biden's the Republican response to Joe Biden's speech to Congress contained the phrase, "America's not a racist country," which in other times might just seem like a throwaway line, but in a time when our nation is so divided that very few of the people who watched the Republican response, who side politically with Senator Scott, probably watched Joe Biden's speech. And so they might easily come away with the notion that President Biden spent 40 minutes running down America as though it were one of those shithole countries that Donald Trump loves to complain about, or loved to complain about. I think it creates a false impression in people who aren't that well informed, and I think that false impression is deliberate. Now, the one civil rights moment that I think that we can say for sure that all Republicans know is the Martin Luther King Jr. "I Have a Dream" speech. And I only bring it up here for context because in that speech, MLK said that he had been to the mountaintop and seen the promised land. Now, when someone says to you that we're living in a post-racial nation, we're living in a country that's not racist, at some level, what they're saying to you is, we are living in that promised land. This is it. We've arrived. And I have issues with that. I mean, school shootings, death by cop, kids killing kids, church shootings, Asian massage parlor shootings, protests. Does this look like the promised land to you? Because if you go out onto the streets and you see all of these people, I don't care which side of the political divide you happen to be on. If you ask Proud Boys or Antifa, if you ask Oath Keepers or BLM, if this is where the world is supposed to be, if this is the way things are supposed to be, you're going to get an answer that this is anything but the promised land. It's not what we signed up for. And so when and if that's how you feel, if that's how you feel, whether you think it is BLM stirring up trouble or racist Oath Keepers defending symbols of racism, either way, this doesn't look like the promised land. So even if you are politically aligned with Tim Scott, you have to admit that line makes no sense. I mean, I don't know. Maybe this is the Republican promised land. Chaos and division and violence. But, and I know this is going to sound strange coming from me, but I have more faith in them than that. I think that they want a peaceful world too. I don't know. What do you think? Is this the promised land? I'm Kevin, and these are my sinister thoughts.